Welcome to Not a Roofers podcast, where we discuss roofing
without all the jargon. I'm Brianna.
And I'm Charity.
And this is today's episode.
Hello and welcome to another episode of Not a Roofers podcast. Today we are discussing protected membrane roof.
Or inverted roof membrane assembly. They are, from what I can tell, the same thing. So you may hear it as protected membrane roof or inverted roof membrane assembly. What does that mean, though? Because it sounds funny, particularly the inverted membrane.
Well, I was kind of thinking that there should be a definition for this one because it's a type of roofing, and so
all I can find on it is that inverted roof membrane assembly systems are used in applications where the membrane requires protection from site-specific hazards. These systems are typically applied in conditions where there is extensive roof traffic or to protect from excessive weather conditions such as multiple hail events. That is what here. Okay. Protected roof membrane, a closed cell extruded polystyrene insulation. That doesn't really help anyway. There's not really a good definition for these.
Well, so in a conventional roof, the insulation is placed underneath the waterproofing membrane. But in a protected membrane roof, the insulation is placed on top of the waterproofing membrane. So your roof is installed upside down.
See, but you say that, and all I'm imagining is like the roof deck then being on top, which I know is wrong. Like the roof deck has to be on bottom for everything to go on top of. But yeah. So why? I know I read when I was trying to look for a definition. A lot of the inverted roof membrane assembly or protected membrane roofs are used in places with high foot traffic. And I guess my question is what does that do? Because you said the insulation is installed above the waterproofing membrane instead of under it. And I've been on a roof recently that was this. I didn't know it at the time, but now that we're talking about it, I know it.
It, like you said, it helps with roofs that have a lot of traffic on it, but then it also helps with damage from a repeated freeze and thaw cycle. It helps against UV rays that put some wear on the roof. And then you also said it helps with some of the other elements like lots of hail.
But my question is, like, how? How does it help? How does having the insulation under the roofing material but above the waterproofing help? Is this to protect the waterproofing membrane?
You know, I don't have an answer for that question. But I do know that this type of roofing provides a Class A fire resistance rating.
That's so helpful.
Sorry.
Oh, it should be noted. So inverted roofing systems, like what we're talking about, are for flat roofing systems.
Yes, that is a good thing.
Not for pitched roofing systems. So yeah, all I'm seeing is that it really is advantageous to have an inverted system like this, which it sounds complicated, and I think in my head it's complicated, but really it's not. All we're doing is switching. Instead of there being the roofing membrane, waterproofing, insulation, it's roofing membrane, insulation, waterproofing. It sounds like mostly so that when the building expands or contracts with weather, that the waterproofing membrane doesn't expand and contract and get damaged more quickly. Because if it's lower than the insulation, if it's under the insulation, it's being more protected thermally. Got it. Okay. That makes a little bit more sense.
Yes.
Which would then be the same, because let's say you have the membrane, there's like something wrong with the membrane due to hail. Instead of that going straight into the waterproofing, it's getting into the insulation. And then when you would have to replace it, you just have to replace the insulation and the top membrane, not the waterproofing membrane. Which, this will bring us into something. Inverted membranes, like what we're talking about, protective membranes, are actually very cost effective. This is where you ask why.
Why is that, Brie?
Well, when there is a leak, what is right underneath the membrane?
The insulation?
Is it easy to tell if there's a leak in the insulation?
No.
Yes.
Oh, yes.
When insulation is wet, it feels wet,
Yes.
right? It feels wet. It can be musty. And so then it's easier to tell that there is indeed a leak. Interesting. So it's cost effective because if you can see, or if you can find that the insulation is wet, then you are better able to find where the leak is because you just follow the wet insulation. So it is cost effective. But there are some disadvantages with this roofing system. So cold weather is a concern because when it is cold out, it can be very challenging for repairs to happen. But I feel like that's with any roof. We've talked about other roofing types that, not that these are materials, but there are certain roofing membranes you can't walk on when they're wet or wet. You can't walk on them when they're cold, super cold, because they'll get hurt.
Yes, and you do not want that. That is not good.
They'll get damaged, not hurt.
More damage.
I was talking about it like it was a person. Like, oh, I got hurt. No, okay. Another concern is vegetation. Inverted roofing systems are prone to leave dirt or buildup, which can then cause vegetation to grow, and this is why regular maintenance is so important. I feel like we haven't talked about maintenance in a while. Maintenance is important. Side note. Another thing with dirt and other things being able to build up is that ponding is also a issue that can be found quite often when it comes to inverted roofing systems. And then weight. The structure of the roof with an inverted membrane, it must be capable of holding the weight of the roof ballast, which can range from 10 to 12 pounds a square foot. So you have to make sure that the materials you're using are capable of holding the weight that is expected of it. It's really interesting. I did not know that there was different ways. Like, who would have, like, the only thing you're changing is where the waterproofing membrane is in relation to the insulation. It's really interesting. Do you have anything to add to protected membrane roofs?
Not really. This one's the roof types are hard for me because I don't feel like there's a ton of information to tell people.
Why do you think, what is your personal opinion on why people should know if they have an inverted roof or what was the other one you called it?
You called it? Oh.
No,
protected membrane roof.
No. The other, was it classical or?
Oh, shoot, what did I call it? Conventional?
Yeah, conventional. Why, like, do you think there's a reason why people should know if they have a conventional or an inverted roof?
I mean, it just helps with how it gets fixed.
Don't believe we have anything else, so that brings us to the end of today's episode. I hope you learned something. I think this is interesting just to know that there are different ways for roofs to be applied in a sense of where insulation is. It's always interesting to know. If you don't already, follow us on Facebook, LinkedIn, Instagram, and YouTube. Those are linked below. You can find our podcast on like all of the streaming platforms that I can think of. So feel free to share with a friend. They should be able to find us at not by just typing in not a reverse podcast to their podcast listening app of choice. Leave us a review. That'd be cool. If we get a review, I'd like to read it on our episode, the following episode that we record, if we find it. So leave a review, let people know why this is worth listening to. Or don't, up to you. If you have any questions about roofing that you want us to talk about, or you just want to let us know that you enjoy listening, you can message us, email us. You can email us at marketing@roofmedics.com or message us on our social media platforms. I will get super excited to see any and all messages. So that'll be fun. But that is the end of the episode, and we will see you next Wednesday.
Bye.
That brings us to the end of today's episode. If you've been loving what you're hearing, make sure to press the subscribe button so you get notified anytime we post a new episode. Episodes come out on Wednesdays. Please share this podcast with a friend, rate us, or leave a review. All of those help us to reach more listeners so that everybody can join us and learn more about the roofing industry as we go along on this journey. If you don't already follow us on Facebook, LinkedIn, Instagram, or YouTube, I will put all of our information in the show notes below. Feel free to contact us with any questions or ideas you have and would love for us to talk about on the podcast. I hope you have a great day, and we will see you next time.